Every morning, as the first light of dawn kissed the park, the old wooden bench waited. It was painted green once, but years of sun and rain had faded it into a dull shade of memory. The bench stood under a massive banyan tree, its roots like veins of time crawling deep into the earth. To anyone else, it was just an old seat. But to Sarah, it was more than wood and nails, it was where her story began, and where it almost ended. Sarah was 70 now. She walked with a cane, but her steps were steady. Every morning she came to the same park, to the same bench, carrying the same memory. People often saw her sitting there, staring into the distance, whispering things only she could hear. To the younger crowd, she was just another lonely old woman. But she wasn't lonely, she was waiting. 50 years ago, this was the place where she met Daniel. He was a painter, carrying a sketchbook in one hand and a coffee in the other. She was a young writer, her notebook always filled with half-finished poems. One morning, the bench was full, except for one small space. Daniel asked politely if he could sit. Sarah nodded. That was the start of a love that outlived time. For years, they returned to the same bench. They celebrated birthdays, argued about little things, made promises, and healed from heartbreaks all under the banyan tree's shadow. The bench became their witness. But time has a cruel way of testing love. Daniel grew sick. Cancer, they said. Sarah watched him fade, not with suddenness, but with slow cruelty. On his last day, Daniel held her hand and whispered, "Promise me, you'll still sit on that bench. Even when I'm gone, I'll be there. In the breeze, in the leaves, in the silence." That was 10 years ago. Since then, Sarah had kept her promise. Every morning, without fail, she came. And every morning, the bench was still empty, except for her. The world around her changed. Children who once played in the park grew up and stopped coming. Lovers who once carved their names into tree bark broke up and moved away. Even the park benches were replaced, except for this one. The city workers said it was too old, too weak to fix. But Sarah begged them not to take it away. She told them it was history. They didn't understand, but they left it. People started noticing her. Joggers would wave, teenagers would take secret photos, and some would even sit beside her for a chat. Somehow, Sarah's presence gave the bench life again. It became a symbol of something rare, loyalty in an age where everything was temporary. One rainy morning, a young woman named Aisha stopped by. She had just broken up with her fiancé and was crying. Sarah offered her an umbrella and half her sandwich. That day, Aisha poured out her heart. Sarah didn't give advice, she just listened. But that was enough. From then on, Aisha visited her often. Then there was Samir, a struggling artist who sketched the old woman sitting on the bench. His painting went viral on social media, titled, "The Bench is Still Empty." Thousands were touched by the idea of a woman who still waited for her lost love. Strangers began coming to see her, to sit with her, to hear her story. Sarah didn't know she was becoming a symbol. She didn't care for fame. To her, it was still just about Daniel. But time is merciless. Sarah grew weaker. One morning, she didn't come. The next morning, she didn't either. People in the park worried. Aisha checked her home and found out that Sarah had passed away in her sleep. Peacefully. A small smile on her face. The news spread quickly. The next day, dozens of people came to the park. Aisha placed Sarah's favorite flowers on the bench. Samir painted her one last time, not as a lonely woman, but as a queen who kept her promise. The city, moved by the story, decided not only to keep the bench but to restore it. They placed a small plaque on it. In memory of Sarah and Daniel. True love never leaves. The bench is still empty, but never alone. Weeks passed. The bench was never truly empty again. Couples came to sit there, making vows. Heartbroken souls came to heal. Friends gathered, children played around it, and strangers found comfort. The bench had transformed from a piece of wood into a symbol trending far beyond the park. Pictures of it circled the internet, captions like, "True love exists," and, "Loyalty is never old-fashioned," reaching millions worldwide. And though Sarah was gone, people swore they felt something when they sat there. A gentle breeze, a warmth, a whisper in the leaves. Perhaps Daniel kept his promise too. Dash dash dash. One evening, as the sun set and the sky blazed with colors, Aisha sat on the bench alone. She closed her eyes, letting the wind brush her face. For a moment, she thought she heard laughter, an old man's and an old woman's, together. She opened her eyes, smiling through tears. Yes, the bench was still empty. But it would never be truly empty again.